Diane Keaton's life story begins in Los Angeles, where she grew up in a modest home filled with both creativity and challenges. Born in 1946, Diane was raised by her mother, Dorothy, and her father, Jack. Her mother had once been crowned Mrs. Highland Park in 1955, and this memory left a deep mark on young Diane. Watching her mother win a pageant planted in her the idea of performance and storytelling. Dorothy herself had endured hardships, growing up during the Great Depression without a father, which made her determined to give her children everything she never had. One of her unique habits was keeping journals, 85 of them over her lifetime, where she documented Diane's rising fame with photos, clippings, and personal notes. Her father, Jack, was a civil engineer and real estate broker, hardworking and quiet. Near the end of his life, while battling brain cancer, he confessed to Diane that he had hated his job and wished he had taken more risks. That confession changed her life. She decided she would not live with regrets, but instead follow her passion for creativity and performance. Their struggles with money in the 1950s shaped her too. Diane often wore clothes from thrift stores, while other girls dressed in expensive brands. Her mother would redesign old clothes using a sewing machine, teaching Diane the power of making the best out of little. These experiences built her resilience and sparked her unique sense of style, which later became one of her trademarks in Hollywood. Even as a little girl, Diane loved performing. At just 3 years old, she put on shows for neighbors in her backyard, often wearing costumes her mother made. She was not shy about stepping into the spotlight. By high school, she was already showing signs of her gift. She performed as Blanche Dubois in a streetcar named Desire, a very challenging role for a teenager, and later wowed her classmates with her role in Little Mary Sunshine. When the crowd applauded loudly after her solo performance, Diane realized performing wasn't just something fun. It filled her with life. However, her path to stardom almost looked different. When she tried to join the Actors' Equity Association, she discovered another actress had already claimed the name Diane Hall. That forced her to choose a new stage name. She picked Keaton, her mother's maiden name, as a tribute to her roots. While she wasn't considered the most traditionally beautiful girl in school, Diane used clothes as her armor, wearing bold styles, white lipstick, and quirky combinations that gave her confidence. Even when she tried beauty pageants, she quickly rejected them, realizing they were more about appearance than talent. Her early heartbreaks also shaped her. A boy once mocked her laugh, which hurt deeply at the time, but later that same laugh became one of her most charming trademarks. Through these struggles, she learned how to use humor and wit to shield herself, a skill that later made her stand out as an actress known for quirky, funny, and heartfelt roles. After high school, Diane briefly attended Santa Ana College and Orange Coast College, but she quickly realized that traditional education wasn't for her. She wanted the stage, not the classroom. With courage and determination, she moved to New York City to study acting at the neighborhood Playhouse School of the Theater, where she learned the Meisner technique. Her living conditions were tough. She stayed in a tiny one-room apartment with the bathtub in the kitchen and the toilet down the hall. But she didn't care. She was finally in the city where dreams were made. In 1968, she got her first big break as an understudy in the Broadway musical Hair. However, she immediately faced pressure. Producers asked her to lose weight, and she refused to participate in a nude scene, even though it was common in the play. This small act of defiance showed her strong values. She would not do something that didn't feel right to her. Around the same time, she also began struggling with bulimia, a secret battle that lasted 5 years. She would binge and purge, believing it was a way to stay slim. It took a toll on her health, but therapy eventually helped her recover. Despite these personal challenges, her career began moving forward when she landed a role in Woody Allen's Broadway play, Play It Again, Sam. Her performance earned her a Tony nomination and launched a long professional and personal relationship with Allen, which would later become both rewarding and controversial. In 1971, Diane auditioned for a film without even knowing what it was about. That film turned out to be The Godfather. She was cast as Kay Adams, Michael Corleone's wife, before even Al Pacino was confirmed for the role. At first, Diane didn't feel like she belonged. Surrounded by legends like Marlon Brando and James Caan, she felt like an outsider. But director Francis Ford Coppola had seen something special in her, a different presence and a unique voice. The Godfather became one of the most successful films of all time, changing Diane's career forever. During the filming of The Godfather Part 2, her relationship with Al Pacino turned romantic. Diane was deeply in love with him, describing him as funny, brilliant, and full of energy, though troubled. Their relationship lasted on and off for 16 years. Behind the scenes, she discovered Pacino was in financial trouble despite his fame. Managers and agents had mishandled his money. Diane stepped in, even confronting his lawyer. trying to protect him. Their love was real, but it wasn't built to last. In 1990, during The Godfather Part 3, she gave Pacino an ultimatum: marry her or the relationship would end. He refused, and their romance ended. This heartbreak mirrored their roles on screen, where Kay tells Michael, "You became my horror." Diane later admitted that in that scene, she wasn't just acting, she was speaking her truth. While The Godfather made her famous, Diane showed her versatility by taking on comedy roles. She starred in Woody Allen's Sleeper and later in Love and Death, where her quirky humor shined. But the real breakthrough came in 1977 with Annie Hall. Woody Allen wrote the role specifically for her, even using her real nickname Annie and her actual last name Hall. This film wasn't just another romantic comedy. It was Diane herself on screen, with her awkward laugh, unique fashion sense, and authentic personality. The film won multiple Academy Awards, including Best Actress for Diane. Beyond the awards, her fashion in the movie sparked a national craze. Baggy trousers, men's ties, oversized hats, all inspired by Diane's own wardrobe, suddenly became stylish. She wasn't dressing to be glamorous, but to feel comfortable. Yet it ended up defining a new look for women in Hollywood. At the same time, she showed her dramatic side with films like Looking for Mr. Goodbar, where she played a woman leading a double life, and Interiors, a serious family drama. These roles proved she wasn't limited to comedy or quirky characters. She could handle raw, intense performances too. The late 1970s and 1980s brought both successes and struggles. Diane appeared in controversial films like Manhattan, where Woody Allen's character dates a teenager, a storyline that later sparked criticism. She also starred in Reds, directed by Warren Beatty, with whom she had a relationship. The filming process was emotionally draining, with endless retakes and high pressure, which eventually damaged their relationship. Diane also tried directing, with films like Heaven, 1987, and Hanging Up, 2000. Unfortunately, these projects didn't succeed, and left her discouraged about her abilities behind the camera. Still, she bounced back as an actress. In Baby Boom, 1987, she played a career woman suddenly forced to raise a baby, a story that resonated with working mothers everywhere. Although critics dismissed it as light, audiences loved it. She also tackled powerful roles in Crimes of the Heart and The Good Mother, showing her range. Later in life, she took risks in her personal life too. At 50, she adopted her daughter Dexter in 1996, and her son Duke in 2001. Inspired by her father's deathbed regret about not taking risks, she embraced motherhood despite being single, proving once again that she lived life on her own terms. In the 1990s and 2000s, Diane continued reinventing herself. She starred in The First Wives Club, 1996, which became a huge hit and sent a message that women over 40 could still lead box office films. In Something's Gotta Give, 2003, she surprised audiences with a nude scene at age 57, showing that women could be authentic and beautiful at any age. That role earned her another Oscar nomination. She also starred in The Family Stone, 2005, where she played a mother battling illness while quietly managing her own real-life health struggles with skin cancer. Her performances in these years blended vulnerability with strength, making her relatable to audiences of all ages. She also continued to inspire with her fashion choices, which were more about protection and personal comfort than following trends. One of the most debated parts of Diane's life has been her loyalty to Woody Allen, even during the controversies that surrounded him in later years. While many actors distanced themselves from Allen, Diane defended him, calling him her friend. Some criticized her for these comments, but Diane stayed firm in her support. This decision affected her public image but also showed her fierce loyalty. Still, despite controversies, she remains celebrated for her contributions to film. In recent years, movies like Book Club, 2018, and its 2023 sequel proved she could still draw audiences. At 79, Diane Keaton stands as an icon who has lived life by her own rules. From her unconventional childhood to her fashion revolutions, from heartbreaking romances to bold career choices, she has shown that reinvention is possible at any stage of life. Her story is not just about Hollywood fame, but about resilience, individuality, and the courage to keep moving forward. One of the reasons Diane Keaton continues to stand out in Hollywood is her refusal to fit into the mold of the traditional movie star. While many actresses were pressured to look glamorous, dress provocatively, or follow the latest beauty trends, Diane chose authenticity. She preferred comfort over glamour, often wearing oversized suits, wide-brimmed hats, and turtlenecks. Some critics initially mocked her look, but soon it became a defining feature of her public image. Fashion magazines began highlighting her as a trendsetter, and young women started imitating her Annie Hall-inspired wardrobe. But Diane never dressed to please others. She admitted in interviews that her fashion was partly about protection. She used layers of clothes as a shield, almost like armor to hide her insecurities. For her, style was not just about beauty. It was about creating an identity that felt safe yet expressive. Her laugh also became part of her personality brand. It was loud, awkward, and very real. So real that people sometimes laughed just hearing it. Instead of hiding it, Diane embraced it, making it one of her most charming traits. This combination of humor, authenticity, and individuality made audiences feel connected to her. She was not the untouchable perfect star on a pedestal. She was relatable, quirky, and human, which is why she has remained loved across generations. Although Diane's relationship with Al Pacino often gets the most attention, she also had meaningful connections with other men in Hollywood. Before Pacino, she had a romantic relationship with Woody Allen, which started during their work together on Play It Again, Sam. Their romance didn't last, but their friendship endured for decades. Later, she became involved with Warren Beatty during the filming of Reds. Diane admired his intelligence and dedication, but the intensity of their relationship, combined with his reputation as a ladies' man, eventually led to its end. Despite being surrounded by powerful men, Diane never defined herself solely by romance. She once admitted in interviews that she wanted marriage, but also feared it. For her, love was real but complicated. When Pacino refused her proposal, she walked away, proving her strength even when heartbroken. Later in life, Diane chose a different path to fulfillment. She decided to adopt her 2 children as a single mother, something very few actresses of her time dared to do. She embraced motherhood fully, balancing it with her career and finding joy in raising her daughter Dexter and son Duke. Unlike the grand Hollywood romances that often dominate celebrity stories, Diane's life showed that family can be built in many ways, and that love does not always come from traditional relationships. Her courage to create her own version of happiness outside the spotlight is one of the most inspiring aspects of her journey. As Diane Keaton entered her later years, she began